And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jerzee Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Are you near or above freezing yet?
Today is the first day in weeks that it is finally hit above freezing.
Yeah. You had some really ugly weather. You're like -2 and you were outside. It was like a
Yeah.
-20 wind chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minus -2 degrees with a minus -22 wind chill.
And you told me your gas cap on your car, the gas cover in your car got frozen. Did you ever get that unfrozen?
Yeah, and I don't even have a gas cap, a screw-on cap. It's just you press
The-
the button and the flapper opens up. The
Yep.
flapper wouldn't open up.
So how'd you fix that?
Well, in Pennsylvania, we're not blessed to have people pump our own gas.
Right.
But at Sam's Club and at places like Costco and Sam's Club where they do have attendants, the attendant was nice enough to help me.
Okay. So you finally got gas in your car. Oh, that's good. All right. Um, so you want to hear what we're going to try to talk about tonight?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
Well, today is February 10th. It's Tuesday the 10th. By the way, Valentine's Day is Friday, if you know anybody
Yep.
who might care about
No,
that.
it's Saturday. Saturday.
Saturday, rather. The 13th is Friday. The Saturday is the 14th. So if you know anybody who cares about it, Saturday is going to be Valentine's Day. Um, Anyway, this week we have a new segment called the Question of the Week, and we're
Mhm.
going to solicit your feedback on the correct answer to today's question. You can email us with an email to joe@jerseyjoe.com or on the website at jerseyjoe.com with the answer to this question. Our quote of this week is from New York State Governor Hochul, and it also qualifies at the same time as the stupidest thing I've heard all week. So it's also our quote of the week and the stupidest thing I've heard all week. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Most outrageous thing I've heard all week. We'll tell you about a group of protesters, and we'll tell you what a group of protesters in Minnesota did to protest the United States efforts to enforce our own border laws. And talk about being tone deaf. You can't believe what these people did. We'll tell you how many, going back to New York State, we'll tell you how many criminal aliens that cities and counties in New York State have released back into those communities, despite there being an active ICE detainer request placed on each and every one of them. We'll also play a couple of clips. We have a CNN poll. Have you heard anything about the SAVE Act, which is a Republican-backed proposal to require all voters, to require states to insist that voters show a picture ID?
Yes.
Well, CNN, which is no friend of conservatives, did a did an independent poll and came up with what percentage of Hispanic and Black minorities support the SAVE Act, and it's shocking what percentage of them do that. And then we're going to follow that up. We've played one of these before where we have white liberals telling us why they think it's racist, how tough it is for Black people to get a picture ID. Well, we have another one where Black people basically say, "Are you nuts?" Um, we also have another school bus story. We've done two or three stories in the past about about school districts buying electric school buses that don't work.
Yeah.
We got another one. So, all right.
Shot in
Oh,
these temperatures, I actually did have to stop the other day at the gas station to put air in my tires because my tires fell below 30 psi, and that's just another I as I'm standing there freezing, filling up my tires, I'm thinking, man, I wonder how many electric cars are not starting in this weather.
by the way, you know the reason the air pressure drops in your tires, there's actually a name for that law. Do you remember from chemistry what that law is?
I forget the name of the actual law, but I know why. It has to do with the cold air and the air pressure on the outside
Yeah,
versus
PV
inside.
over T, Boyle's law,
Yeah.
Boyles, Boyle's law. Pressure equals volume divided by PV over T. Anyway, yeah, pressure, volume, temperature, they're all related. Um, we'll also tell you a very disturbing story about college students who can't read at an eighth grade level and ask, how did these people ever get into college in the first place? And unfortunately, I know the answer. I'll see if you know the answer. And this week, by the way, as usual, taxpayer release, we always have three, four, five to pick from. This one comes from Vancouver, Washington, where a homeowner shoots and kills a violent intruder who literally kicked down the guy's back door. He didn't sneak in, he literally kicked down the door in the middle of the night, and he got met by a homeowner with a gun. All right, ready for the question of the week?
What's the question of the week?
Here's the question. What if there were no hypothetical questions? That's your question of the week. The question of the week is a hypothetical question, which
Yeah.
is, what if there were no hypothetical questions? All right. All right. Now, but before I play this clip from New York State Governor Kathy Hochul, let me ask you a question. Do you know what a semi-automatic pistol is?
Yes, it allows you to fire more than so many like you can press the thing and it will come out. You don't have to press for every single bullet.
No, that would be no,
That
a
would be
semi-automatic.
automatic.
No, that's an automatic. A semi-automatic, every pistol sold, every 9 millimeter pistol sold is a semi-automatic. You get one bullet for every press of the trigger.
Hmm.
So semi-automatic pistols are perfectly legal. They've been around for 100 years. Every pistol sold today, I say pistol as opposed to revolver. So a semi-automatic pistol, like a 9 millimeter,
Hmm.
is a semi-automatic, and a revolver is a revolver. But in either case, you only get one bullet every time you pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So she's talking about converting guns to semi-automatic. Well, pistols are semi-automatic when you buy them. So that's just one of her many ignorant things she says. So here's Governor Kathy Hochul making some. It's only like 15 seconds. It's one of the most ridiculous, stupid, and ignorant things I've ever heard a politician say. And here we go.
Mhm.
You will no longer sell handguns that can be converted into semi-automatic machines. You can't be converted into semi. They're semi-automatic when you buy
So
them.
is
You don't
she
need
is
to
she
convert.
is
You
she
don't.
misspeaking and say in meaning to say automatic?
That's probably what she means, but that's
Because you
not what she
can
said.
convert them illegally, you can convert them to
Right,
automatic.
right. But let me play the rest of this thing. Here we go. It's only 10 seconds. You will no longer sell handguns that can be converted into semi-automatic machines able to fire 1,200 rounds a minute.
That would be an automatic.
Automatic, but even it's automatic, even if you could convert a pistol, and there are these little things we talked about on Glocks, where some of these crooks buy these little gizmos and they put
Uh-huh.
them on the back of a Glock,
Yeah.
where they can make it if you pull the trigger and hold the trigger down, it'll fire. But but they do this. I think the biggest magazine you can buy for a Glock is an extended magazine. It's long. It sticks out the bottom of the gun,
Yeah.
and it's a 30 round magazine. And yes, you can fire that whole 30 magazine in about 3 seconds. It goes
Mhm.
brrr, and it's done. But
Yeah.
after that's done, the gun stops because you ran out of ammo. And guess what you then need to do?
You have to change the magazine.
You have to eject the old magazine, put a new magazine, shape the next round. Brrr, next magazine. By the way, after about 300 rounds in 30 seconds, you would literally start to melt the barrel of the gun. Now, there's a big difference now, technically, if I can fire 30 rounds in 3 seconds, the gun is firing at the rate of 1,200 rounds a minute,
Hmm.
but it is physically impossible for the gun to continue to fire at that rate for 60 seconds. The
Because
gun would literally melt. It would melt.
it would take you 2 seconds. And that's even, I'm sure somebody who's a pro could probably change it in quicker than 2 seconds. Let me say it would take me 2 seconds to change a magazine.
But even then, but again, the gun is going to get incredibly hot and it's going to
Yeah.
malfunction and melt. You
Hmm.
cannot fire 1,200 rounds out of a pistol. You can't
Hmm.
even fire an under minute. You can't even fire, even assuming you were pro and you could empty the mags and change them every 2 seconds. And of course, she doesn't allow for the fact that you have to take time. It takes you longer to change the magazine and insert a new one than it is to fire the mag. So one more time. So here we go. You will no longer sell handguns that can be converted into semi-automatic machines able to fire 1,200 rounds a minute. I'm sorry, there is no pistol that you can buy, and I know a lot about guns. There's no pistol that you can buy that is capable of firing 1,200 rounds a minute. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
It may have a short-term rate of fire of 1,200 rounds per minute, but it can't fire 1,200 rounds per minute. So that's my most stupid and outrageous quote of the week. You would think somebody on her staff would know better and coach her. So, all right. Now, you know what the phrase tone deaf means, right? When somebody's tone
Yes.
deaf, they don't realize what they're doing.
Hmm.
Okay,
What
well,
saying? Yeah.
yeah, okay. So up in Minnesota, a group of people are protesting ICE and Customs and Border Patrol literally set up a barricade on a public street to block traffic. They created a border, A no entry border. You cannot pass. You cannot. They they created a border to protest ICE enforcing our border laws. And here's the clip. How tone deaf are these people?
Police are stepping in after a community created their own method of public safety against ICE. Uba Ali joins us live in Minneapolis with more on that. Uba?
Well, Frank, they say this is all in the name of public safety. A grassroots response to immigration enforcement, they say, is hurting their communities. At this roundabout at 34th and 17th, flames burn as people stand guard.
We are literally creating a place that we know who's coming and going in and out of our neighborhoods.
We are creating a place where we know who's coming and going. What does that sound like?
Yeah,
Does that sound like a border?
yeah.
You're creating a place where you can stop traffic so that you can identify and know who's coming and going. Let me back that up again.
Burn as people stand guard.
We are literally creating a place that we know who's coming and going in and out of our neighborhoods.
In the middle of the road at 32nd and Cedar Avenue, a makeshift roadblock turned this intersection into a roundabout. Cars slowed as drivers noticed, some honked, others asked questions, and one man brought food for the people standing watch. Hi, sir. Thank you so much. How did it make you feel just seeing a community checkpoint in your neighborhood?
Well, it felt fine. I don't have any trouble with folks helping out.
Wade Haynes has been standing at this corner twice a day for one reason: to stand up against ICE activity and keep his community safe.
Well, but talk about tone deaf. You create a border to ensure that you know who's coming and going into your neighborhood.
Which is exactly what Customs and Border Patrol does.
Exactly what Customs and Border Patrol. So they win the award for the most tone deaf
I mean, it
group.
sounds like they want to live in a gated community.
Yes.
And if that's the case, then they need to form their an HOA and build a fence.
Right. Yes. All right. Now, kind of on a related topic, we had Governor Hochul talking about, guns that, converting a pistol, file 1,200 rounds a minute. Here's the most outrageous. I don't think people understand the magnitude of this. Based on an executive order by Governor Hochul from last year, local police departments, state, county, city, municipalities, you know what a detainer request, right? When ICE learns that somebody they've been looking for has been arrested,
Yeah.
they can file a detainer request with the local police department or prison saying, hey, we understand you have this guy in custody. He's wanted by us. Please notify us before you release him or when you're getting ready to release him, because we'd like to come and take him from you. And by the way, when that handoff takes place at the jail like it does in Texas, dozens of times every day, it doesn't have to take place on the street, right? Because, they walk them out in a handcuff.
Yeah.
They put their handcuffs on them. They take their handcuffs off. No fuss, no muss, no, it doesn't take place in public, which is why even though the number of people detained by Homeland Security in Texas is 10 times 1,000%, 10 times is 1,000%, right?
Yeah.
Even though there are 1,000% more people being detained in taken into ICE custody in Texas every week than Minnesota. Texas has 25% of the detainees. Minnesota has 2%. All of this commotion is happening in Minnesota because they don't honor detainee requests. Well, the same thing in New York. I don't know if you read my email. You want to guess how many people that the various police departments in New York State have released back into the community in the past year that had detainee requests?
I think it was pretty high.
How about 7,113 illegal aliens?
Yeah.
7,113. And let me run down some of the crime. Some of the crimes include, by the way, 148 homicides, 717 assaults, 134 burglaries, 106 robberies, 235 dangerous drug offenses, and 152 weapons offenses. Oh, and 260 sexual assault cases. You want me to you want to hear those again?
It's interesting. So the ones that were let's take the most violent, the murders, so, okay, a robbery, were they stealing food because they were hungry? But the most violent ones, what are those people doing out on the street?
Well, and by the way, the reason they're released is that they posted bail. So they were arrested for homicide. It could have
I don't
been.
think that murderers should have bail.
I agree with you, so it could be, it could be you're accused of murder, accused of
Yeah.
manslaughter, and you can go out, so you can post bond. But again, here's among those 7,113, it included 148 people accused of homicide, 717 of physical assault, 134 burglaries, 106 robberies, 235 dangerous drug offenses, 152 weapons offenses, and 260 sexual assault cases. All of those criminals who are illegal aliens to start with have been released back into the local communities. If you lived in one of those towns or counties in New York State, how would you feel knowing that?
Yeah, I wouldn't like that at all. And here's another thing with the going back to the murder. So even if so everybody's, I
Innocent
guess
until
entitled to bail or whatever. Even these murderers who are entitled to bail, who potentially are entitled to bail,
alleged murderer.
alleged murderers who
Murderer.
are potentially entitled to bail. When a judge is making that decision, whether or not to grant even an alleged murderer bail, one of the things that they take under consideration is their
Flight risk.
ties to the community and their flight risk. Now, if you were in this country illegally, your flight risk, by definition, I feel just is like exponential.
Yeah, you might flee back to your home country, but I mean, it's just astounding. Until I read that, my jaw dropped. I had no idea we were talking about 7,000
But
criminal
not
illegal aliens.
these ties to the community and being a flight risk, those are significant factors in making that determination
Yep.
for bail. So again, the district attorneys and the judges, this goes back to these off-year elections, people.
Yeah. Oh, God, I know. Anyway, so if you weren't aware of that number, and I'm gonna guarantee you 99% of the people listening to this podcast had no, and we're just talking one state, one blue state, 7,000 illegal aliens charged with either, by the way, charged or convicted, because in many cases they're charged, they're given probation, personal, what they call probation. I mean, if they arrest you for illegal possession of drugs, okay, boom, boom, we're going to give you a year's probation, and you're not serving any jail time. You're initially taken into custody, by the way, and that's when ICE places a detainer request on you. But when your case comes to court, many times, fine, if you're arrested for carrying a knife over 4 inches long, the judge may just give you a fine and a year's probation, but doesn't mean that there wasn't a detainer request. So some of these people may have already been convicted of these charges, but we're not giving any jail time beyond their initial overnight in the maybe a day or two in the local jail. But I'd be upset as hell if I found out that 7,000 people in my criminal legal aliens were turned back into my community. All right. So you want to move on to what the minorities think about? What minorities think about the SAVE Act?
Yeah, what do minorities think about the SAVE Act? I, for one, by the way, have never once in my entire life ever been asked for my identification.
No, but when
And
you go
that's
to
insane.
register, when you went to register to get you to register to vote, did you have to prove who you were?
Actually, it's part in Pennsylvania when you renew your driver's license, it's just a question on your driver's license. It says, "Would you like to register to vote?" And you hit yes or no.
And you don't have
So
to prove
it's-
you don't have to prove you're a citizen.
I don't
Yeah.
have to prove I'm a citizen because it's on my driver's license. It's part of my driver's license registration.
Right. And which is why the Republicans say,
But when you go to the polling place, there's at least the first time you go, they are supposed to ask you for identification, and I've never been asked for identification.
okay. Well, and I think CNN had egg on their faces because they were trying to make a case that minorities were opposed to this rule. Here's what this is only 28 seconds long. Here's how here's what minorities think about the SAVE Act, Voter ID Act.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So
why does Chuck Schumer keep referring to the SAVE Act as Jim Crow 2.0?
Yeah,
Now,
I don't know.
so let's move on to how white people and black people view this requirement for voter ID. And we've played something similar. This is different than the last one we have, but it's the same thing. Here we go again. First, we're gonna have a bunch of white liberals telling us why voter ID laws are racist.
Opinion of voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely, because they're less likely to have state IDs.
You can always get IDs, you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for Black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's
Now, by the way, remember last week we talked about Thomas Sowell quote? Remember he said he referred to it as the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah.
So I'm going to back this up a little bit. So how low are the expectations of these white liberals with regard to the capabilities of black people? Right.
I think the black people should be very offended by this.
Well, I'm going to back it up a little, but again,
I am offended for them.
Again, think about the soft bigotry of low expectations.
do over the internet? Does that also make it difficult for Black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that?
By the way, can you access the internet with your phone?
Yes, I can.
Do you need to pay a special internet service provider, or does that just come automatically with your
It's
cell
just
phone?
part of it's included in my monthly cell phone fee.
So you don't need to have a special subscription for an ISP, right?
Nope.
No. Okay.
And you don't need the internet, by the way, to get a driver's license.
They don't have the knowledge of how.
Service provider for certain fees.
I'm sorry, say that. I cut you
You
off.
don't need the internet to go to the DMV to
Right.
get your driver's license or
Right.
even a state issued ID.
Right. Hang on. Then we got one more white liberal woman, and then we'll go to see how black people feel about this.
Do you think that's harder for Black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
So she just called black people stupid is what she just did.
Yeah, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works. She just called black
so she
people
just called them stupid.
Right. All right. Now we're going to go to black people.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask Black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any Black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Why would they think we don't have ID? That's a lie. Why would you say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with.
Do you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, "Could we please just see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are"? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Opinion.
And let me say this. If you're on Medicaid, and a great many poor African Americans are on Medicaid, Medicaid is a government.
And you need ID for that.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter if when you go to get medical treatment, any hospital, any doctor, regardless if you're on private insurance, Medicaid or Medicare, they won't treat you until they can verify that, yes, you are the person, because they don't want to be involved in Medicaid fraud. So if you're receiving medical care, well, first of all, if you want to fly, if you want to drive, you want to buy liquor, or you want to get medical care, you have to have ID.
Or if you want to buy Sudafed, or if you want to buy paint.
Right. Sudafed or spray paint, you have to have, so again, it's the soft bigotry of low expectations. Anyway, so just for those who thought that black people agreed with Chuck Schumer that it's a Jim Crow type law, no, it isn't a Jim Crow type law. So, all right. Should we move on to school buses? This will be like our third or fourth story. Now, let me talk about school buses, EV school buses. Two things that happen. One, when it gets really, really cold, what happens to the output of a battery when it gets really cold?
It decreases dramatically.
Right. And then secondly, on electric school buses, and you have to heat the bus so that, you want to keep the bus warm for the passengers. Where does the heat come from that heats the bus?
Well, on a combustion engine, it comes from the engine.
And on an EV bus, what's?
I don't know where it comes from because
it's an electric heater running off the batteries.
Yeah, so it's draining your battery even exponentially.
Right, so you get the double whammy of reduced battery output combined with the fact that in cold weather, a lot of that reduced capacity is going to be used not to move the bus, but to keep the bus warm inside. Do you think it ever gets cold in Maine in the wintertime?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, here's Maine. Maine two different school districts bought these buses, and they didn't buy them with their own money. They bought them with Your money, federal tax dollars. Here we go.
Road for electric school buses continues for two main school districts. Winthrop and Yarmouth are keeping those buses off the road this school year after the manufacturer filed for bankruptcy.
CBS 13 Sam DeCoste reports both districts now still mulling their next moves.
2 years ago, Winthrop Public Schools rolled out brand new electric school buses. They were hoping it would bring students to and from school for the next few decades. But instead, these buses sit in this parking lot. They can't be used due to safety reasons, and officials are waiting for them to be discarded.
It doesn't help that they're really in the parking lot.
Winthrop has 4 electric school buses made by Lion Electric, a company based out of Quebec. Superintendent Becky Foley says the buses have been nothing but trouble. In its first year, one bus lost its brakes and ran into a snowbank. Nobody was hurt, but the buses spent months in repair shops, faced parts recalls, and failed state inspections.
It's very unfortunate that we did not get a different model from a different company.
Winthrop's bus warranty will not be honored by Lion Electric since the company has filed for bankruptcy. But because Winthrop received the buses through a grant from the EPA, they are required to keep and maintain the buses for 5 years. Foley hopes the EPA will give them an early out.
We just really want to hear from the EPA and learn how we can dispose of them, get rid of them, and move on.
Yarmouth also went electric. They have 2 Lion Electric buses through a State Department of Education grant. Superintendent Andrew Doloff says in 2 years, the buses have been operational for 1 month total.
Out of 2 years, 1 month of operation out of 24 months.
That's terrible. That's what a waste of money.
Still weighing options, which include selling the buses, trading them in, or working with another service provider and repairing the buses on their own dollar.
I don't think anybody could foresee this happening. You know, what took place with the manufacturer.
Going forward, Doloff hopes Yarmouth can stay electric, but he says their experience with Lion has soured people's opinions.
We got a couple of bad buses, and at the same time, you know, they faced bankruptcy and challenges, and so it's going to be a long haul.
Sam,
and by the way, we've covered this in the past. The math on these school buses, depending on how much they paid, you can buy 3 to 4 traditional diesel buses for every 1 electric buses. We've covered that before, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Because you can buy an electric.
I had to laugh though. Nobody could see this coming.
Yeah, everybody could see it coming.
You know, these might be, again, other than the cost factor, like you just mentioned, you could buy 3 or 4 or 5 combustion diesel buses for the price of 1 EV. The only place that these are good, aside from the cost, is the southern states like Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, where it doesn't get, you know, below freezing regularly.
Right. And that assumes that the bus is otherwise mechanically reliable, which
and it
clearly
sounds like they're not.
With these buses clearly weren't. So, by the way, how much time we got?
You have about 7 minutes.
All right, good. Real quick, you know a little bit about, you want to take a guess how many degree issuing colleges there are in the United States?
Oh, there's probably thousands.
Try 6,000. Now, there's a story here, and I'll just read from the story. A stunning report revealed that many university professors now find themselves teaching students who struggle to read, not just to interpret literature or write essays, but to understand basic text on a page. According to Fortune magazine, a growing number of Gen Z students enter college unable to read effectively, forcing professors to break down even simple passages line by line. Now, you might ask yourself, how is this possible that somebody who can't read at an 8th grade level gets into college? Do you know what the answer is?
Yeah, what is the answer?
Well, the big name schools like Penn State, Yale, Harvard, you know, they require, SAT scores, they require, scores. They have standards, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, standards, of course, as any reputable college should have.
Well, but then therein comes the rub. Well, with 6,000 universities, I bet you, if I asked you to name, you probably couldn't name more than 100, 150, right?
Probably.
Which means the other 5,800 they only have one goal in life, which is to fill the seats and fill the beds. Mm. They don't care what your SAT scores were. They don't care what your grade point average is. All they want to know is can you write the check? Can you write the check for the tuition? And they're just churning them out. They just, you don't have you never took the SATs. Your SATs are 450. We don't care. We don't need to see them. How much money, can you, they're just looking to fill the beds and fill the seats. And so they'll literally take anybody. And that's why so many students wind up going to these, I call them diploma mills. They wind up working in Starbucks as a barista because they spend $80,000 to $100,000 over 4 years to get a degree that has no market value from a college nobody ever heard of. And that's, folks, that's where we have. If your kid can't read at 8th grade level and doesn't have decent SAT scores, think long and hard before shelling out the money or signing on the bottom line for a student loan.
Now, that being said, though, there is something to be said for community schools.
Yes.
And a lot of Penn Staters will often start at a community college and take an accredited community college, or take a summer class if they need an extra math class or an extra science class or an extra English class, because you're paying a lower tuition rate, and those credits then can transfer over.
Right.
So there's something to be said there.
Absolutely.
So we're not slamming community schools. We're slamming unaccredited, not accredited schools.
Yeah, but if you're coming out of high school as a senior in high school and going to some university, podunk you, that doesn't ask for your SAT scores, that's probably not the best investment of your money. Hey, I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to jump right into our taxpayer relief shot. Here we go. Vancouver, Washington.
Break into somebody's house and there's not going to be repercussions to your actions.
Some neighbors are reacting after a deadly home invasion. Police say a man broke in and the homeowner shot and killed him. This is Coin 6 News at 4 o'clock. I'm Jennifer Hoff.
And I'm Dan Tilkin. It happened last night in Vancouver's Riverview neighborhood. Our Jacqueline Abad is live tonight outside Vancouver Police with what led up to the shooting. Jacqueline.
Dan, Jennifer, well, police tell us that this happened around 10:20 last night. An unknown man kicked his way in through the back door and got inside.
Kicked his way in through the back door.
And that's when the homeowner confronted him. Take a look at this video. This is video from the scene from early this morning. Investigators were seen inside the home. And after the homeowner confronted the man, Vancouver police say the suspect charged towards the homeowner. And that's when the homeowner shot him. The man ran out of the house and collapsed in the back where he died. Neighbors say they didn't hear any shots last night. I did speak with one woman who lives close by who didn't want to be shown, but this is what she had to say.
I would just say that I'm really sorry of the tragedy of somebody having to die for possibly trinkets or whatever. It wasn't worth it, but I'm sorry about that. But I totally support the homeowner's desire to protect himself.
The homeowner and the other residents were not hurt. Investigators have not identified the man who was shot. The Clark County Medical Examiner's Office will be notifying the man's family as well as working to identify him. Now, earlier today, I did get a chance to speak with a man who lives inside the house, but he did not want to talk. Vancouver Police is continuing to investigate. Reporting live in Vancouver, Jacqueline Abad, Coin 6 News.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you're the homeowner and you didn't have a gun, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody kicks in your back door and you have it. What are you going to do? You're going to call 911. And how long before the police get there? And what's going to happen in the interim? You're going to wind up in a hand-to-hand struggle with a guy that might be armed.
Yeah. What is I don't know what the national, but it's like minutes. It's what, 5 minutes?
Oh, in some places like in Denver, it's 14 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And the guy could be armed for you. He's got a knife, a gun, who knows? So, the old saying, when seconds count, police are minutes away. And this is a classic example. 2 o'clock in the morning, guy kicks in your back door. And it's for the next, if all you're doing, and even if your wife is upstairs calling 911, for the next 5 to 15 minutes, it's just you and the guy who just kicked your door in. You're one-on-one. And particularly if you're a single woman, we've had a lot of these as a single woman. If you're a single woman and you don't have a gun and know how to use one, I strongly urge you to buy a gun and learn how to use one, or get some very, very strong doors. Producer Susan, I know we're running tight on time. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, folks, thanks for listening. If you want to answer our question about what if there were no hypotheticals, send me an email to joe@jerzee.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and 2 E's. JERZEE, jerseyjoe.com. If you want to see some of these story links, or if you'd like me to send you any of these story links, I'll be happy to do that. Just email me to joe@jerseyjoe.com, or give producer Susan a couple of days and you'll find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerseyjoe.com. Just Mariner spelled Jersey with an R, a Z, and 2 E's. And with that, producer Susan, I will bid you good night, and I'll talk to you next week. You take
All
care.
right.
Right. Bye-bye.